Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at LGT Transport. Back on the maintenance side of things here, we have upcoming an International Roadcheck by the CVSA, the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance. And what they'll be focusing on is wheel end components. So what we'll be talking about today is we're going to go through, and I'll kind of be directing along with this tire, showing you at least where to look for the components that they'll be checking the most, what issues you might come by, and how to get them resolved. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to start off from the outside on the tire, and we're going to go into the wheel end. Okay, so we've done a video on tires before, but I'm going to kind of reiterate a little bit from that video. We're going to talk about tread, we're going to talk about steel cords, and we're going to talk about wear patterns and what tires to go on the steer axle, because we are looking at a steer axle in this case. And we'll go through that part. Now on this particular truck, it is a new truck, so this is a brand new tire, so it's a good case to show you what a new tire is going to look like. We run 11R 22.5s. They'll be looking at the size. You are going to look at the sidewall for any damage, any cuts, abrasions, any possible leak areas. You might see a little bit of some steel cords up here where the belts run through here, but generally not on this. It'll just be on the top, right? Now these are directional steer tires. You always want to make sure they're going the right way. But the main thing that DOT officers will be looking for during the road check is going to be cuts and abrasions on this sidewall, right? Any debris sitting here, especially between the drive axles, or drive tires, I'm sorry, and go through there, make sure nothing's rubbing between there, right? Now in the tread, you're going to, of course, do your tread level measurement across the treads this way in 4 locations, top, bottom, left, and right. If there's any tread that's, of course, below the minimum, obviously that tire is not going to pass, right? The other thing you're looking for is, of course, the steel cords. That's majorly up here in the tread. One thing to watch out for is rock drilling. If you have a rock sitting in there, you can take a screwdriver and actually pry it out. And then you have to take a look at where that rock was sitting, because basically it gets stuck in the tread and, of course, vibrates and wears the rubber out until it gets to the steel cords. I actually had to do a tire on another truck the other day just for that reason. So that's going to be consistent of your tire. Now I did bring up what kind of tires you're going to find on your steer axle here specifically, because they will be checking for regroove tires on the steer axle. Now I'll do some research on the back end of this and put some material out there, because I was not under the impression that they were illegal to have regroovable steer tires. Now I'll check and I'll put it down below. But we run all virgin rubber, so it doesn't matter for us in terms of a tanker fleet. So my advice to you would be to run virgin rubber on the steers, because you're not going to have a blowout scenario causing damage to all your equipment. So now we're going to go into the wheel here. Now I call this the wheel and I call this the tire. Wheel rim will be the same thing here. Now we run aluminum rims, aluminum wheels. They're Alcoa in this case, but basically they're high polished aluminum. And you're going to be checking along your bead, obviously, to make sure there's no dirt, debris, cracks of any kind, any leaks, anything that's going to cause you a problem with sealing the tire, because of course you've got about 105 to 110 pounds of pressure in this thing. And any cracks in between here, I'll usually see it around here, maybe when they get over torqued. You might see a crack kind of jot up this way. And those are things to kind of check for here. I've also seen cracks between these holes here. Okay. You also want to make sure that your inflation hose, your tire stem, is in good condition. Some people will make sure that there's no dirt in here, so you take this off, make sure that it's not leaking out of the cap, out of the tire stem itself. And you can check that right here, and you can actually take some brake clean, I'm sure, run it over there, and then just make sure it dries out. So then put the cap back on. They will be checking your pressures. When it comes to a tire, you have 2 different types of steer tires. You have a 14 ply or a 16 ply tire, and that's basically the weight rating on it. And when it comes to weight rating, you have to also check the weight rating of your front axle. Generally we run 12,500 pound weight rated front axles, and we run 14 ply tires. You can get 16 ply tires, which can go up to 13,100 pounds, whereas these can only go to, I believe, 12,003, and those are the two differences there. So make sure you have the right tire for the right application. Otherwise, the DOT will be looking to you for answers to that question. So the other thing you have going past the tire and the rim is you have your actual, what I consider wheel end components. I like to separate it out into tire, wheel end component. You have your studs here with your axle, not your axle nuts, your lug nuts for your tire. You want to make sure those are in good condition. If you have covers, pop them off. Make sure they haven't backed out on you. Generally, if they back out, you'll see a lot of rust and corrosion around one that's backed off. And of course, the safest way to do it is to make sure that you retorque these, right? So if you have any concern, go to a tire shop or a truck stop shop and say, hey, can you retorque my tires, lug nuts? And they'll go around, and generally they go at 475 foot-pounds. And give them a retorque. Doesn't hurt to do it, okay? And next component will actually be inside the hub itself. So we have a cap on here, and I just take a flathead and I push down on, you got little tabs, and we'll kind of get a close-up shot later on. But you push in to pull that out, and then what you have here is you actually have your hub cap, right, going into the hub, right? Now this is the steer axle, so it's a little bit different than what you would consider a drive or a trailer axle, and we'll kind of get some camera footage of that so you can kind of see what we're looking at there, right? But on that steer axle, you have several bolts or studs going around the outside, and then you actually have a cap. Generally, on the steer axle, you want to make sure this cap is dry. If it's wet, you need to get a new cap first. So one more quick thing here I want to point out is the maximum oil level, the minimum oil level, and you can actually see there's an oil level in here. If you can't see that, you probably need to get a new cap here. Sometimes they do sell just the glass. Other times you have to buy the whole cap. But that's how you're going to tell if you have enough oil in here to actually lubricate your bearings. So keep that in mind. DOT will be probably checking those levels as well. I don't think it's a violation to have it at a minimum, but if you're not lubricating it right, then you're not taking care of it, and it will cause damage, and you could have an accident. So keep that in mind. And make sure there's no leaking around the seal of the actual hubcap itself, right? There's a gasket back behind there, and you could have some leaking there as well, right? You also have a fill cap where you put hub oil in the trucks in terms of the steer axle and the drive axles. You do have a fill port, and you need to make sure that that is obviously not leaking as well, right? Now as you get in there, I won't be able to tear one of these down to show you, but I'm going to kind of talk about it so you can kind of visualize a little bit. As you go into a bearing or a wheel end, you have a bearing, an outer bearing and an inner bearing, and you have races for each bearing. Now the races is basically a flat metal polished surface, and the bearing itself is a roller bearing, and basically the roller bearings will run on the race, which is pressed into the hub, and that of course allows you to run the tire in the circular pattern that it goes. But you have to have hub oil in order for that bearing to stay intact, lubricated, as well as in good condition. If you don't have the appropriate hub oil in there, or you don't have enough, they will get hot and they will burn up. That's another thing the DOT officers will be looking for. Now, of course, that leads us to our oil seals, or our wheel seals commonly called, and that's on the back side. So you have your hub with your races and your bearings, and that goes all the way through to the spindle, and then there's a wheel seal that sits on the spindle that actually seals in all that oil, right? And if you have a leak on your wheel seal or oil seal, then of course you're at risk for running your hub too hot and your spindle too hot and possibly messing that up. And of course the worst case scenario is that actually the whole hub will fall off because of the heat, and you'll basically be without a tire, a wheel, or a brake pad, right? In this case we have disc brakes here, and I want to say we have drums, but we might be switching the disc back there on this one. And you definitely, it's just the worst case scenario, And of course, that's what the DOT is trying to avoid with this International Roadcheck. And that's kind of where we end up on that. But they will be checking all the way through that. They won't actually be tearing anything down, but the common things you want to look for will be along this list here, and we will actually provide a flyer that the CVSA has given out to everybody, so that way you can read through specifically what they're saying, kind of compare it to the video and run with that. So for LGT employees, as company drivers and owner-operators alike, if you have anything showing up on your truck, you have questions over, obviously give us a call. And company drivers, let us know, and we'll obviously get you to a shop to get it fixed, right? Same thing goes on a trailer. When it comes to the trailer axles, hubs, and wheel end assemblies, make sure you let us know. We'll go from there. If you're not with LGT, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did like it, of course, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And hope you guys have a good day. And positive road checks. Good luck.